Hello, everyone. Back. My presentation today is, the aim of it is to give you an introductory roadmap of what to expect in your near future of building a repository. I'll start with a disclaimer. This presentation will present a linear process. This linear process will not always be pretty, but it will be relatively clear and easy to follow, I hope. However, sadly, I'd like to inform you that the reality will look more like this. It's going to be a mess at times. You'll have a lot of questions and uncertainty. We'll do our best to support you in that. But just about every development project is a bit messier than what you plan out. There will be some linear processes in it, but you'll often go back and iterate and specify things over time and decide that some decisions you made were a mistake. It's fine. That's part of the process, and we'll support you through that as well. Overall, the linear process you can expect will have 5 phases. In reality, they won't be as clearly defined, but it's good to keep that in mind. The first phase is preparation. Then you'll go through a phase of specification, development, launch, and then operation throughout the whole lifetime of the repository. So let's start with preparation. The first thing you do is somehow come to the conclusion that your community needs a repository. Once you have this formed, or at least you have a feeling that that might be the way to go, you can start here on the website of EOSC on the page Repositories in the National Repository Platform. This is where you'll find some basic information about the process. And this site, you can find it by going to Services, Data Storage, Repositories in NRP. And this page has 3 subpages. One is general. The second one is related to creating repositories in the NRP. This is relevant if you don't have a repository yet and you want to build a new one. Even if maybe you have some service which is not good and you want to ditch it and build something new instead of it and migrate the data. And the second one is relevant for integrating an existing repository into NRP. So you have something, you're happy with it, and you just want to integrate it to use the services provided. So, on this site, you'll find a few essential documents that you should read and understand. The first of them is conditions for creating a new and modifying existing domain repositories. This sets out very simply what NRP offers and what is expected of you. And these conditions are binding for you. But it's quite vague. It says what you're going to do, but it doesn't exactly say how in much detail. So it's good to know. But after that, you can read the recommendations for creating repositories in the National Repository environment. And we wrote this document to go into a bit more detail and explain what we mean by the different steps, everything that is involved in building a repository. So if you don't have much experience with that and just want to understand the basic concepts and have some idea of what it is, even to just help you understand if a repository really is what you want, start here. And after that, if you are reaffirmed that yes, this is something I really want to do, you can fill out a basic form where you specify the purpose and basic features of the repository as you understand them now. This is not at all binding. It's just to give us some introductory information about like who you are and what you want. If you already have some grant application, you can pretty much copy paste some sections. If there are some sections you don't know what to write, just skip them, whatever. But this is what you will be sending to us when you request a first consultation. So it serves for us to have something specific to talk about, to prepare some questions so that the actual consultation we can talk about factual things and not just generic motivation. You can request us through a form on the website of EOSC or write directly to the email address, but who wants to remember that? So after requesting that, you'll get an automatic response from a request tracker system. It's a bit messy. I'm sorry, we're working on it. But after that, a friendly repository system specialist will respond. We'll send you a booking form, agree on a term, and we will agree on a time to meet. Usually expect it will take like an hour and a half to get an in-depth understanding and to start off the conversation. This will not be the last meeting we'll have. We plan on iterating more. Let's see. And throughout the next meetings we have together, we will work on understanding and analyzing your requirements. We'll help you write them down and specify what you need so that we can prioritize them. You have to do the work on the side of your community. We'll give you some technical feedback on what is achievable, how much work it could be, what maybe we see potential that more repositories would like it, and maybe NRP would help develop it, and what would be completely your own work. So for some examples of what you need, like again, on top of standard repository functions, like lots of things are, provided by default in the repository systems we provide. If you have any questions what they are, some of them are written in the recommendations document. We can iterate it in person as well. But I expect you'll probably want some domain-specific previews of specific data formats used in your domain. You might want to integrate with some other systems, some aggregation platforms that are used in your domain, some virtual research environments, and so on. You'll almost certainly want to integrate some specific metadata profiles, or at least controlled vocabularies, so that the repository really uses the language that people in your domain understand. And we'll want you to tell us, like, what things does it make sense for you to filter on in the data set, and what things you want to see in the preview of the data, and so on. What order do you want the metadata to display in for it to be intuitive? But of course, like, this will be in the next phase. We'll iterate. We'll have a few big requirements, and then we'll break them down and specify them, and until we really get some specific requirements that we can understand. There'll be a workshop dedicated to well-forming requirements after the coffee break, so we can practice that together. But general tips, like, be as specific as possible in that moment and include the motivation. Like, why do you need this? Like, sometimes you'll write, oh, I want it to be like this, and like, that might be a hard way, but there could be some other simpler way we can meet the actual motivation of what you need that causes fewer technical problems and saves everyone time. So we'll try to help you with that as well. Ask your end users of the repository what they need from it. Include them in, like, when they feel like they're also building it with you, they'll want to adopt it more, potentially, or they'll hate it, who knows. But hopefully, they'll feel like they're contributing and that their needs are reflected, and that can aid adoption a lot. And help them prioritize, what is the most important for them. Sometimes when you dream up a repository, you'll have so many requirements and it'll be so complicated. Then you'll build it, it's just too complicated to use. So sometimes less is more, and then you can iterate later. Some things we have provided is a checklist. It's just an Excel that lists in a bit of granularity all of the steps that are required, as long as with some documents or examples that we provide. And through the consultations, we'll go over this document and state where approximately are, if you feel like you have that mostly figured out or haven't thought about it yet. This isn't binding, it's just to help both sides have some idea of where we are. And we'll probably provide you with this in the next, probably not the first consultation, but maybe the second, the third, once things get going. We will do our best to facilitate sharing know-how and knowledge and examples amongst the repositories that are both already established in the Czech Republic, maybe even abroad in some cases, and as well as there's a lot of you going through this process now. A lot of you will be running into the same problems, and you can adopt the same solutions in some cases. So we'll try and build some support community around this that goes beyond just us, the repository system specialists. We already provide, for example, an example deposition license. We provide some documentation. It's not perfect, we're working on it. It will definitely be improved in the next few weeks, months. And we also, for example, have a Figma library with Invenio UI components, and we expect a lot more to be added in the near future. Once you have some more specific idea of your requirements, ideally, we'll help you decide which repository system is best for you. I know that oftentimes maybe the grant application already wanted you to state something, then we'll go with that, or maybe reevaluate if it is a problem. But if you have maybe more colleagues that would in the future still consider this, they can definitely talk to us long before they write the grant, and we can help you form your requirements for that as well. You don't have to have the funding secured when you first talk to us. So what sort of things are in the specification process? A big one, metadata profiles. We'll talk about them in the afternoon in a lot of detail. We'll help you specify what user roles and groups in the repository you will need. Maybe the default ones will be enough. Maybe you'll need more granular control. We'll discuss persistent identifiers. We'll help you define the deposition workflow. Again, you need to say what you need. If it's really simple, maybe it might be complex. And we'll go through requirements for the UI, and we'll help you make sure that the UI you define actually works for the users and is intuitive and a good user experience. And then there's some actions you need to take, like writing a repository policy. Probably will be the most fun, but it's incredibly important to have some idea of what the conditions actually will be. You'll create a registration to the National Catalog of Repositories once it is in pilot production. We'll ask you to share examples of the metadata and data that you already have. This will greatly help us understand the data that you have and help you decide on the metadata profile, the controlled vocabularies, previewers, and so on. We are not part of your field. it can be really hard for us to imagine the data without seeing it. You will need to decide on a visual identity at some point. It's not the most important in the beginning, but eventually you'll need to have it, and it can take surprisingly long sometimes if you need to coordinate it with the user community, or if you don't have a designer in your team and you don't want to use your institutional one. Just something to keep in mind. You'll need to decide on some option in accordance to the terms and conditions. We'll give you more information about that in a later presentation. And the final thing we'll do is we have a point where we agree bilaterally on the requirements of the repository, on what you actually are building. And this will happen. On one side will be the repository administrator, who is making the decision on behalf of and with the cooperation of the user community, and the repository system provider, who is doing it on behalf of the entire National Repository Platform and with input from many different people in it, including us, the repository system specialists, and the developers, and lots of different parties that might have some input to specific steps. This doesn't mean that the requirements cannot change from this point, but if you do, you need to consult it with someone so that we're on page with who does what and by when. The next phase is development. And in this one, you are implementing specific features according to what was agreed on. You put the code on GitHub, most likely, and you'll have some Kubernetes environment available. And then depending on the specific repository system you choose, they might help you with the DevOps of deploying all of this, so you won't have to deal with all the technicalities necessarily, but that is what is provided. And then details of how exactly your code will be integrated into the entire repository, that will be a separate discussion with the developers on a case-by-case basis. There'll probably be some automated tests. You'll need to have some user testing probably to make sure everything is fitting together correctly. And we can use GitHub or the request tracker system to report bugs along the way and to report new features that might arise. In the development phase, there are also some administration that you'll have to deal with, such as preparing a contract, agreeing on a mock-up of the UI, mapping any metadata fields that are not part of the default CCMM model to it for import into the national metadata directory. You'll need to decide what licenses specifically will be available in the repository, write a deposition license, or you have a template, but make it your own, and then designate an official repository administrator, data curator. Ideally you'll do this sooner, but this is probably the latest you want to do that. And then a check mark, the final point here is where the repository administrator has tested the prototype and they agree, yes, this is good. And then the people on the side of the National Repository System have also tested it and are like, yeah, this can go out into the world. The next phase is launch. In this one, we will need to write some PR texts. The EOSC PR team can also help you distribute the information about the repository into the world. You'll write text on the website about the repository and test that, hope everything works well once the first real users start using it and deploying their data. And then finally, we have a production repository and it is useful and everything is great. But this is not where the work ends. Then you need to operate this repository, and you potentially want to do that for forever if you really want to provide long-term storage of the data. You'll continually need to fix bugs, handle security incidents, monitor new trends in your field, and provide inputs for future development of the repository, support new formats, and so on. Monitor metrics, and secure the long-term sustainability of your repository. Economic situations are not always stable, things change, and you'll always need to show that your repository really is essential for the research community you're serving, and that it should continue to be funded and operated. We'll do everything we can to support you in this mission, of course, so you won't be in it alone. And that is everything for me. And any questions from you? I'm not sure how much time we have before we continue.
Thank you very much, Illyria. We've got 5 minutes. We will touch on the individual phases and steps later during the day. So now, if you have any questions regarding the whole process, we are using a lot of vocabulary that could be foreign for you. Is in this area, the general process of building and launching a repository. Do you have anything in this respect, please, that you would like to clarify or comment on?
I saw some people taking photos of the slides. We will provide you with them afterwards.
Naive and specific question at the same time. Quite often we will need different platforms to cooperate because, for example, the data in physics will be in Invenio. We need to deal with the student thesis, which will be in DSpace repositories all over, and how to link them together.
Yes. So all of the repository systems have an API that allows for exchanging data, and the details depend on what you need them to communicate with. So you need to specify that in more detail, and then we can decide on a specific solution that works well. If you just needed to aggregate the data from both systems, we can do that with the OIE PMH protocol. But if you can link them together, or you can create some other integration, but without more information, I can't say.
Generally speaking, we count on the necessity of your repositories to communicate with other systems. This is the basics, and the specifics will come up during the specification phase. Okay, anybody else, please? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. And we are moving on to the specific repository systems. So you are continuing, Illyria.
Okay. And so, of course, always approach me during the coffee break or by email or any of us, and we'll answer questions individually as well.
Maybe one more remark. We have not included the slides, explaining what NRP is, because we take this for granted. Maybe this was a mistake. So I just wanted to add that the National Repository Platform project started in 2024, last year. We are nearing the end of the second year then. We will finish at 2028, at the end of that year. So we are nearly in half. Our colleagues spent a lot of time preparing the environment so that you could come and implement your repositories. But as you can guess, every project is to an extent a hořící bordel. So it's of course the case in our project as well. to some extent. So you will encounter things that are not working perfectly right now because the repository systems and the technical environment is still evolving. We are still building it while we are building your repositories. So please be aware of that, but do not comply with it. I mean, if you need anything to work better, just tell us. Do complain to us that you need something more better. We will try to make it happen.